Hello, good afternoon. I'm Arlene. I am an overseas Filipino worker, and this is actually my first YouTube video on retirement in Philippines. So you might wonder, because most of the videos uploaded here are from foreigners who are thinking of relocating or testing the waters before they finally decide to relocate in Philippines. But as most of you know, there are millions of Filipinos working overseas, living overseas, but at the end of the day, a lot of us wants to go back to Philippines and retire there. So I know before you reach this channel, you probably watch other YouTube videos regarding retirement in Philippines and you know bits and bobs about it. But what I want to share with you are inputs from a local who have spent her life mostly in Philippines. I want to share with you, I think the most important reason why most of us still wants to go back to Philippines, although we've been working overseas and lived overseas. I'm currently in London. This is my third country working as a nurse. But at the end of the day, the reason why some of us prefer to go back to Philippines is because of the people. My family is there, and I don't have a family here. Well, I have a sister in the US, but the rest of them are in the Philippines. And like most other Filipinos, I am very much family oriented. So where my heart is, where my family is, there I go. Unless I meet somebody and I get romantically involved and he's not Filipino and I might have to live somewhere else. But at the moment, yeah, my only family is in the Philippines. So what about Filipino people? Because there are a lot of countries that you can consider retirement in. You can retire in Caribbean, you can retire in Mexico, you can retire in Europe, or probably stay where you are. But so why would you want to retire in Philippines? So I think the reason is when you get to Philippines, the moment you land on an airplane, you get this laid back feeling that, you know, life is much slower. Although, of course, we still have to go to work if you're working in Philippines, but it's a much more laid back life than what you're probably used to. And one thing you also have to know about Philippines is we are big on family. And I think this is true for most Asian countries. We are a tight-knit family for the most part. Even if we've graduated from college, even if we can afford living in our own house, we still don't mind if the home becomes an extended family home. And it's true for a lot of Asian families, not just Filipinos. So another thing is when you go to Philippines, the moment you land in an airplane, well, barring COVID, because COVID changes a lot of things, you will notice that the demographic is very, very young. Like, if you're from Europe, because currently I'm in London, so you would notice that in Philippines, the fertility rate is really high. So you would see a lot of babies, a lot of young kids, a lot of Filipinos in their prime working age compared to the elder population. So, which is encouraging because the youthful energy kind of rubs off on you, right? So you are like the average of the 10 people you surround yourself with. So if you're surrounded by youthful people around you, and you know, you become kind of young, you feel like you're young. So that's what you're gonna feel when you're in Philippines, like compared if you're in Japan, or like say in Europe, where the average of population is much older. So this is one stark contrast. The fertility rate is really high. And one more thing, even though Philippines is a third world country, we do put a lot of focus on education. So even though we have people barely making ends meet, you will notice that these people have kids who are two or three kids going through college, attending, med school or law or engineering or teaching. So it's kind of amazing because for the most part in first world countries, to get a college degree is not that easy, but in the Philippines it's much more affordable. And just with this administration, I mean the president that we have right now in Philippines, they made it a priority to make education like the biggest chunk of the budget. You can study from preschool to college virtually, like really zero tuition fee. So, and even in a micro level in the family, there's nothing more that your parents would expect from you but to do good in school. So we do, as a family, as a culture, place a very high focus on education. So you have, yes, it's a third world country, but it's fairly educated, and getting a degree is very easy, especially now with this current president and the current administration that we have. So, as you can see, you have no problems communicating with me. So, everywhere you go, English is like an official language. So you have Filipino and you have English as the official language. The moment you step out of the airplane, everything you see is in English. So there's no language barrier at all. Of course, there are different degrees of fluency, but for the most part, you would not have a language problem. And now, I think there are a significant chunk of people who are moving to Philippines because they met somebody online and they want to test the water if this girl is for me, or if I can retire to Philippines and find somebody to grow old with. The good thing is in the Philippine culture, we don't have much taboos when it comes to interracial relationships. Also, we are like very open-minded, where you don't have to be politically correct in the sense of politically correct, meaning how you should act when you are in the US or you're in Europe or in another culture. So we don't box you in. Like, you can freely express what's on your mind, but of course you still have to be respectful. I think that's a given, but you wouldn't find it uncomfortable to strike a conversation with the locals. So really transitioning in from being a foreigner to speaking with the locals and engaging with the locals is fairly easy because we're open to you. There are no cultural taboos to speak of, and you don't have to be like politically correct all the time. In fact, we probably don't have that notion of being politically correct because for most of the time we speak our mind, provided you're not being rude, and it's okay. And all right, so one more thing regarding the religious aspect. We are open to different religions as well. So, unlike some countries where there's tension among religions, you wouldn't really find that here in Philippines. In fact, I know some couples, one could be like Christian, the other is Muslim, and for some reason they can work it out. I mean, I don't know how, but we don't have this religious intolerances to speak of in Philippines. And with regards to family dynamic, one thing you have to know is in a family, it's the Filipina who controls the budget because she does the shopping. She knows where to find the cheap ones. She also knows how to cook. Well, the guy can cook too, but since she's the one shopping and doing the budgeting, normally she knows what she's gonna cook, right? So it's one of those instances where she's like the treasurer of the of your monthly budget. So I don't know if you're gonna do that if you've got a partner in Philippines and you're a foreigner, but that's pretty much the family dynamic here. But of course, everything you can talk it out with your spouse. Also, one thing about Filipinos, um, we had two female presidents. So, in this respect, we are very much politically progressive. Plus, the fact that we are the ones doing the budgeting and the shopping and holding the money of the family. But at the same time, we are we're quite very feminine. You know, we have a different version of female power which you normally have in say Europe or in the US or in other Western culture. We appreciate it if you do like open the door for us or give us flowers, or we're not gonna tell you off like saying, hey, I can open the door for myself. What do you think? It's not the type of female power where what you can do I can do. No, it's like we appreciate it if you're a gentleman, and if we we like it that chivalry is not dead, even though we can be politicians as female, or even though we're the one holding the budget. So it's a different kind of feminism than what you would normally find in other Western culture. So that's one thing. And one more thing is, you might think, is it safe in Philippines? For the most part, really yes, because I live in Manila for a big chunk of my life, and nobody has really pointed a gun at me or pointed a knife at me, and I'm obviously 5 to 51 kilogram. But for as long as you don't do stupid things like being on the road, or I mean walking alone in the middle of the night like 4 a.m. 3 a.m. in a suspicious area, then you might be attracting trouble for yourself. But for as long as you don't do that, I would say that you are fairly safe in Philippines. um, yeah, that's pretty much true. Second, another thing is, you might wonder, how does Philippines survive as an economy, as a country? So we're a little over 100 million population, and 10% of that are working overseas. One of which is me, and that's how we bring in dollars to the Philippines. Another is, you probably heard of businesses outsourcing to third world countries like Philippines, because services, um, when you run a business, you want to outsource some of your services sector where it's cheap. So that's a big uh, contributor to the Philippine economy. I think it used to be India who's the number one outsourced capital of the world, but I think at this time it's Philippines rather than India. So that's another economic driver. Plus, like any other Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, um, we're attracting some of the manufacturing sector away from China to Philippines, because of the cheaper cost of labor, and the workforce is highly skilled or highly trainable. So those are like the big drivers. You also have tourism, agriculture, but they're not like the big ones. So those are the three big sources of income of the government of Philippines. So one more thing that you might ask is, can I drink tap tap water from Philippines? The answer is yes, but I would suggest that you can put filter if it helps. But in general, yes, you can drink tap water from Philippines, or you can buy filter from hardware store and put it where you have your tap water line to have it filtered, or you can buy from a local hardware, or sorry, a water supplier, and it's just pretty cheap. It's like for a big gallon. I mean, it's more than a gallon, but it's like a big blue container. It's gonna cost you like 35 pesos, including the delivery per piece. So are there internet in Philippines? Of course, yes. Um, it but the coverage is in some areas are really not good. So you might want to purchase like a hotspot to carry with you in addition to the SIM card that you have, so you can have better internet signal. And this pocket hotspot is cheap. It's not very expensive. Like everything in Philippines is much cheaper than where you are currently. In fact, I would dare say you can survive quite comfortably on 1,200 or 1,500 US dollars per month, and that includes your rent, your utilities, your cable, your internet, your water, your AC, your electricity, your groceries. Um, a can of San Miguel or Red Horse will cost, which is like the best beers here in Philippines, and you probably try them because they're also available overseas. Is like $1 here, and watching movies in Manila would cost you like $6 or $7 per ticket, and it's cheaper in the provinces. So that's Manila rate. So if you go outside of Manila, it's movie tickets are much cheaper. Um, Cigarette, a pack of Marlboro would cost you $2, but I really don't want you to go into your vices because alcohol is cheap, liquor is cheap, cigarette is cheap. But I'm just telling you, this is like the difference in the price. What else? Eating out is also cheap. I would say the average eating out would be $7. You can go fancier than $7 per meal, or you can go below $7 per meal in a mall. I'm not saying it's like somewhere, random, but it's like a real proper mall. And that's your average eat out price. And that includes the drinks, the dessert, and, like rice and meat, and probably a side dish. So, which is really great. And it goes cheaper the farther you go away from Manila and the big cities. Other things which you might ask is, where should I rent? So if you are budget conscious, you have to find a place which is outside of the city or outside of Manila. And the good thing about it is it will be cheaper, it will be less pollution for you, and it's gonna be an entire apartment. So it's definitely way way below whatever you're paying now wherever you are. And you can beat the traffic in Manila or in the provinces by getting a motorbike. So I would suggest get a motorbike or lease out a motorbike if it's just a short term stay, and ride it so you can get around much faster. Um, you can also use the public transport, which is also very cheap, but at the moment, because of COVID, I would suggest, just stay away from public transport until COVID is cleared. So, I think one of the reasons why you want to go here is because you've seen a lot of islands that you want to visit. All right? Okay, so this can be expensive if you don't know where to look. So, what I would suggest is go where the locals go. Or you find deals online that offer significant discounts. So, yes, you can travel Airbnb, or you can get deals from Metro Deal or other sites, group buying sites, even Groupon for your vacation deal. Or you can go create a Facebook account and you can like Facebook pages of travel sites in Philippines, and they would normally give you tips on where the locals go and how you get there, what you should do so you're not gonna pay a lot. So that's how locals travel. And I would suggest, if your health can, if you're healthy enough, that's how you can travel on a budget. But if your budget is unlimited, of course you can just book a hotel somewhere, and and it's not gonna be a problem. But I mean, you can retire in Philippines like on a splashy budget, or like on a mid budget, or like really really live like a local, which is gonna be very very cheap retirement. But it's still gonna be okay. Um, Also, one question is, do you have good hospitals in the Philippines? Most of the good hospitals, you will find it in the city. So, well, you've got nurses like me and doctors who will be looking after you, but the really big ones will be in the city. But whatever it is you're paying overseas compared to what you will pay here in the Philippines, for example, if you don't have any insurance at all, it's a very, 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 very small fraction of what you will be paying overseas if you have had like an operation in the Philippines. So, also, I would suggest you can get a private healthcare insurance in the Philippines, and it's very cheap because, for example, um, what we're paying for my mom, or let's say my dad's healthcare insurance. My mom is like almost 60 years old, and yeah, she's almost 60 years old, and her healthcare insurance for the year is just a few thousands higher than what I pay per month for my national healthcare insurance here in the UK. So you have that big disparity when it comes to the affordability of private health care. And what I pay monthly here for my national health insurance in UK is like comparable to what my sister pays for her monthly healthcare insurance in the US. So you can just imagine, like, and my mom is like almost 60 years old, and she's got heart condition. And yeah, also, if you're gonna have dental services, I remember one time I went to the mall and I paid like 1,000 pesos for teeth cleaning that's up and down, and it cost me around $20 to have it done. I don't know now, maybe it costs you a little over $20, but still, I mean, it's $20 for teeth cleaning from a real dentist in a mall. So, and I had all the teeth that I can think of to be filled, because when I go to Philippines, I make sure that whatever cheap things I can do in Philippines, I do it there rather than have them done here in London. So per tooth, I think I paid $7 or $6 or seven per tooth. So you can just imagine the big disparity. I'm not gonna pay anywhere near that here in UK if I need some dental services, right? So yeah, so I covered health. Um, I will cover it more in detail because there's a lot of things that I can discuss about healthcare in the Philippines. And what I'm gonna just give now are like overviews, a very, very quick overview. So, like in my family, right now, we're an extended family, right? But I asked my mom what's our budget, and she said, like, I think we're spending 1,100, and that's for an extended family. We have three AC. No, we don't run them all the time. I have my three nephews who are living with us because my family, my brother's family is with us. And we do takeouts, especially for dinner time, because we have a family business. So sometimes my mom and dad are already tired, they don't want to cook, so we just order dinner for like, I don't know how often, but it's quite often because nobody wants to cook dinner, they just order from outside. So that's on that budget. But the house, we're not paying rent because the house is fully paid, and we've got cable, we've got internet, um, of course we've got water, but we're just using filter now, so we're not ordering like um, water from specially to be delivered for drinking. So we just buy a filter and use that for our water. And yeah, so basically that's our expenditure for the month. And I would also suggest that you don't have to also worry about garbage, because normally if you live in the city, there's like a garbage collecting truck who gets the garbage like several times a week. You just give them like 10 pesos tip just for the effort, because it's hot and they're doing it. So you don't have to worry about garbage collection, especially if you're in the city. Well, if you want to maximize your food budget, because food is also gonna have a big impact on your budget. If you're just buying pastries or bakery stuff, just buy it from a local bakery, because it will be much cheaper than getting it from a mall. Because we live 5 minutes from the mall, so we also buy a lot of stuff from the mall. But yeah, for bakery stuff, we can just buy it from the local bakery store. And also, if you want good deals with vegetables and fruits, then you can buy from your local wet market or public market compared to buying it from the mall. But yeah, so that's also one way for you to lower your food budget. Um, so if you're in the Philippines, you might notice that aside from the restaurants which you find in the mall, we have like what we call like um, small businesses which sell foods and meals on the street. And you're gonna ask, is it safe to eat them? And my answer is yes. I've eaten them when I was, I've eaten them and nothing happened to me. When Filipinos cook, they're cooking as if they're cooking for their family. So whether they're selling it outside or they're consuming it, it's safe. Okay, you're not gonna get diarrhea from it. So don't worry. And what else have I not covered? Yeah, so for now, it's just what I'm gonna discuss, because I don't want to overwhelm you. We can go deeper into the nitty gritty of how it is in Philippines. But I think aside from the fact that, I mean, you can watch a movie and go out with friends and do karaoke cheaper in Philippines, and watch a movie and cheaper in Philippines than probably in another major city. I think the really reason why you want to retire in the Philippines is because of the culture. It's really laid back. You will feel relaxed. Well, that's my reason. I just know when I'm home, I'm totally relaxed. I don't have to worry about the alarm clock or going to work. So, but I'm not saying that it's bad if you retire in your country. I'm just saying that the laid back nature of retiring in the Philippines will rub on you. And I know for some people they might find it boring, so that's the time you might probably want to open a small business also here in Philippines. But that's gonna be another topic on what you can probably open in Philippines. But for now, that's just a small primer on what you can expect when you go to the Philippines. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe and make a comment on the topics that you want me to discuss, and I'll be more than happy to make a YouTube video of that. So for now, thank you for watching my video.